porque no fim eu sei que vou tirar. Fala tchau pro seu batom na boca e fala oi pra quem te faz pirar. Se você já tá com a mesma sensação, pode vir, desde que eu dou um bugão. Tá descontrolada toda essa tara e não para porque a coisa ficou mara. Vou te ganhar no cansaço, no cansaço, no cansaço. Vamos fazer um regaço, um regaço, um regaço. Colarinha dos amassos, amassos, amassos. Vamos fazer um regaço, um regaço, um regaço. Rafa Gomes, digam no beat. Não perde tempo escolhendo a roupa, porque no fim eu sei que vou tirar. Fala tchau pro seu batom na boca e fala oi pra quem te faz pirar. Se você já tá com a mesma sensação, pode vir, desde que eu tô um vulcão. Tá descontrolada toda essa tara e não para porque a coisa ficou mara. Vou te ganhar no cansaço, no cansaço, no cansaço. Vamos fazer um regaço, um regaço, um regaço. Colar em altos amassos, amassos, amassos. Vamos fazer um regaço, um regaço, um regaço. Vou te ganhar no cansaço, no cansaço, no cansaço. Vamos fazer um regaço, um regaço, um regaço.
The views, opinions, and representations expressed on the Night Dreams Talk Radio Network and its website are those of the hosts, guests, and participants, and are not necessarily those of or endorsed by the network, its affiliated stations and broadcasts, the management, other hosts, or advertisers of the network. The shows found on the Night Dreams Talk Radio Network can, but do not necessarily, promote any particular lifestyle, belief, religion, political affiliation, or other personal practice. These shows are for entertainment purposes only, and are not intended to treat, diagnose, and or claim any cure of disease or condition, or give any medical or legal advice. Coming to you from some far point station, like a cosmic tumbleweed, both north and south of the Pleiades, here's your host, Gary Anderson.
That is me. Boy, I was just waiting for that storm to go by. I don't know. I like that intro, but I don't, because I never know when to jump in. I have to wait for that second set of thunder. Well, tonight we're going to be talking with a great guest about ghost hunting, what it's like to be on, cable TV and all that stuff, and past life regressions and everything right after this.
Do you have a paranormal story you want to share on Night Dreams Talk Radio? You could be a guest. Email us at nightdreamstalkradio@gmail.com.
Coming to you from some far point.
You're listening to my friend Gary Anderson on Night Dreams Talk Radio, the best in paranormal radio.
Well, I try to be. Hey, how is everybody doing tonight? I tell you, I'm a little bit kind of strung out here today. 10 minutes before going on the air, my internet went down. I got that back up running, and I found out why it went. We got a cat, and it decided to get into the server rack, and all those cables just came disconnected. So I was sitting there, trying to plug everything back in so I could get on the air, and here we are. Hey, anyway, I'm going to introduce our guest. Guest, are you here tonight?
Yes, I am.
You want to tell everybody about you and who you are and all that great stuff?
Sure. My name is Marlene Pellicer. I'm a native Miamian. I founded I was a paranormal investigator starting back in the 90s. I tell everybody this is when you still had to pay to develop film. My group was called Miami-Ghost-Chronicles. And really, I was more of a freelance investigator per se than an actual group. I used to work with different groups. I used to work with the Research Foundation that used to cover the entire state of Florida. So I would work a lot down in like the South Florida area, or if they needed help somewhere else. Then, you know, I've been doing this, in other words, for a long time. Throughout that time, I worked as a hypnotherapist, and, you know, just seeing the evolution of the paranormal, in other words. Recently, I appeared on one of the episodes of Paranormal Survivor, and another one that just came out recently for haunted hospitals. And at one point also, I held a job as an investigator for the state. So I go from one end of the spectrum to the other, you know. So yeah, that's kind of in a nutshell a little bit about me.
Wow, that's actually quite a bit. Now I got to ask you a question. What is the scariest investigation you've ever been on?
Wow.
Or one of them.
What?
How
You're
about one of them?
laugh at this, but and sometimes scary. It's because sometimes when you could go to some of these investigations, you're kind of like ready for things. But I want to say one time, usually if, you know, we had, let's say a certain amount of investigators, everybody would come kind of like meet there at the client's house because we were coming in from different points. But afterwards, we would say, hey, you know, we're not going to stand out in front of the client's home. Let's meet out in the parking lot of the gas station or wherever. And so we could have like a real quick meeting before everybody goes back. And I remember one time we did something like that. It was really late at night, and this was a place that was really quiet. It must have been close to midnight, really quiet. And one time, and you know, everybody would park their car and just step outside of the car, and all of a sudden we started hearing something banging around inside of somebody's trunk. And there was nothing that should have been, I mean, talk about, it really, like, we were totally unprepared for it. And I remember we looked at it wasn't my car. We looked at the person whose car it was and was like, did you lock your cat inside the trunk of the car? And there was something rattling. I mean, we ended up, you know, of course, she had to open up the trunk because none of us is like, your car, you're going to be the one that's going to open it.
Oh, wow.
And of course, there was nothing in there. There was nothing in there. Okay. And it wasn't like, you know, like something shifting, you know. No, it was absolutely something being moved around inside of her vehicle. And, you know, she had stuff in there, you know, like everybody does in their trunk. And that was, I want to say, one of the times, and just because of the moments that was unexpected, and it also made us realize, you know, that thing people always talk about, does anything follow you home when you're an investigator? Yes, It can. So that's, as a matter of fact, after that, I would definitely smudge down my vehicle before I came back home. That was one of those early lessons I learned.
Okay. It tells me one of the early lessons, did you have anything ever follow you back home that you weren't happy about?
You know what? I'm going to say this, and I've told everybody, you know, that, you know, other people have come to me along the line to ask me about things. At one point it wasn't, as a matter of fact, after, it would be before an investigation. At one point I had like a garage that I had converted to like a small office, but it was a separate building from the house. I basically converted it into an office. And I remember I would have a window that would face like a passageway. It was like that frosted glass. And sometimes I would sit there working and everything. And sometimes I would see a shadow dart back and forth across that frosted glass, which, by the way, the only thing that was on there was like a very narrow little passage where I would just put like my trash cans that I would take out. In other words, there was didn't face a sidewalk. There's nobody's going to be out there. And after a while, I learned that usually when I saw that, one of two things: either I was about to get a case, or a case that I had recently been told about, that there was absolutely something legitimately supernatural going on, because I would see those shadows. And that's, you know, when you work in do paranormal investigations, that's one of the things you realize. People think that things only happen as an investigator when you get there. if you truly do have something going on, you're there ahead of the curve. You sometimes have things happen to you or to one of the team members around the house like that way before you ever get to the case. As a matter of fact, that's a good tip-off that there is something legitimate going on.
So, in other words, strange things could happen at your house or wherever days or weeks before you actually go to, investigate at somebody's house.
Yeah. Usually, I would say like sometimes a couple of times I would be there and I would see that shadow, and I'm thinking, obviously I knew it wasn't me, and it was like I'm going to get a case. Sure enough, within maybe the next 72 hours, I would get an email about some case. And if I already had one that I was just, we were waiting to get together, work out the logistics of, I was like, you know what? Without this, you do a pre-interview, but you really don't know truly if there is legitimately something paranormal till you get there. And that was usually after a while you learned that's my tip-off. There is something, not only is there something there, it's intelligent, and they're coming to check us out. And in some cases, I want to say, and this is not that common, they almost want to head you off at the pass, as in kind of scare you off.
I was just thinking that.
Depending on what you're dealing with, they do try to manipulate paranormal teams or help or whatever you want to call it away from interfering with what's going on at the house.
I'm going to be honest with you. For years and years, I've been in broadcasting since the mid-'70s doing talk shows. And I took a break through, I would say, all the 90s. I just wanted to get out of radio. And I took a job as a general manager of a chain of professional camera stores. The main corporate store was built in the building in the 1880s. So it was old. And originally it was a hotel. It had like 13 stories. And in the 60s, they cut it down to like 4 stories because it wasn't safe any longer. But in this, I found out after I started working there, my employees, we had a huge basement. And originally the basement was a bar in the 1880s all the way up to the 1920s. And we stored all our, supplies for all 3 stores in our basement. And I would send my employees down there, hey, go get this, go get that, right? After a while, the employees say, I'm not going down there. It's haunted. Now, the people we had working for us was like an ex-military, like a ranger. We had an ex-Navy SEAL. We had a guy who was a chief posting mate in the submarine force. And these people are saying, I'm not going to go down there anymore, Gary. You go get it. And I'm going, oh, come on. And this went on for years because I went down there. I never had any problems. But these guys would come and go because I would get so tired of them saying it's haunted and refusing to go down there. I would fire them. And then we'd hire somebody else. And then after a while, they would go down there and they would say, hey, it's haunted. Things are moving. I smell things. I get, touched. Yeah, sure. I thought they were crazy. Then one day I went down there and somebody tapped me really hard on the back of the shoulder. And I turned around and guess what? It was nobody there. I mean, I was ready to punch somebody out, but there was nobody hit. And I go, this is really strange. And then I went down there a couple of days later. I smelled lilac. And I took another step, and then I didn't smell anything, and the smell went away. And then I don't want to go into it because this is your time, but I tell you, that opened my eyes up.
No, let me tell you something. I think it's a great story because, you know what? I don't know what it is about cellars and basements, like something that's dug into the ground, but you get the darkest stories versus stuff that's in the middle of the house, whatever. Usually when it involves basements or something, it's like, oh, okay, God, it's usually something dark. I don't know why. And one time I had somebody tell me something where he was a paranormal investigator. He got slapped in the forehead, and it was in the basement of a house that they were doing the investigation. And it was like you said, you can't mistake it like, oh, I brushed up against something. And no, he got slapped in the forehead. So I kind of understand also what you're saying as far as you can't mistake that for something else.
Oh, yeah. And I tell you, it got so worse because I would be down there sometimes late. I'm talking like to midnight. Also, I took a trade up because I didn't know if I was going to go back into